Now that the recording has started, I'll explain first of all this meeting. As you saw on the first slide, it is the business workshop. Why the business workshop? We changed the scope a bit of what we discussed last time was going to happen during this call, because we didn't have enough momentum to really say, okay, let's update this model based on the needs that the community has. We are confident that there is more need in the community than what was shared over the GitHub issues. So we rescoped this meeting a bit more to focus on finding out the need, to make sure that if we're doing this maintenance track, that we are answering requests from the community, that we're really filling a niche, and that we're not just updating a model for the sake of updating a model. That having said, that's the goal of today, and I want to introduce my co-host, Sander. You want to say a short word about yourself?
I will. We're gonna. No, I think it's good that we just dive in and get started. I really hope that everybody's willing to, also join in, and that we can get a lively discussion and gather some new use cases today as well, so that we really so that in the end of the day we have confidence in the model, and that we know that it will be fit for purpose, and we at the end of this series that we know that what the model, as we sign off on it, that it will serve all of our use cases for being able to exchange interoperability assessments. I don't want to take too much time here. I think there are more interesting things to be said on the content than on the formalities. So let's go.
Yeah, perfect. So as Sander indicates, this session is really focused on you, and I will not do a lot of explaining. That's why we had the previous webinar. Today is really you explain your situation to us. But before we do that, we will dive into what you've already submitted, some of you on GitHub or were mentioned in the previous webinar. Then you already have a baseline what we're talking about, and then we'll go into an interactive exercise where we're really looking to gather all your input. We hope to do it in such a way that you're all comfortable with it, so we'll be able to do it in writing or by speaking up. But talking about speaking up, we want to see the room, read the room a bit, to make sure that the use cases we're getting are representative of which member state, that you're also comfortable working with the WebEx tools. So a short introduction, who are you, what's your role, and you're representing which organization. I will now go through the attendee list. If you don't want to speak up, it's fine, I'll move on to the next person, but it's welcome to speak up. So first of all, Alessio, could you introduce yourself?
Okay, hello, my name is Alessio Nardini. I work for DigiDigit in the Digital Ready Policy Making team, and we're working on implementing interoperability assessment within the Commission.
Andrea Nagy. Boda Vince. Could you introduce yourself? Okay. If not, then we're moving on to Davide.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Emil. My name is Davide Audrit, and I'm also working on the implementation of interoperability assessments within the Commission. And I'm working for DigiDigit in the Digital Ready Policy Making team.
Cécile. Hendrik has introduced himself.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was okay. I'm Cécile Gouache. I'm also working with Davide and Alessio, so you know what we are doing. Thanks.
Then Hendrik has introduced himself in chat because of audio issues. He's from Germany. He works there for the digital services within Germany and acts as the single point of contact for Germany. Then Felicitas.
I'm the next one in the long list of people who work for the Commission, but I work for the policy team, and I wrote together with Isa the guidelines for interoperability assessments, so now very interested to see how it's being transferred to the data model.
Then, sorry if I mispronounced the name, Mihaly Dan from Hungary.
Thank you very much. My name is Mihaly Dan from the Digital Hungary Agency, and I'm involved in the implementation and coordination of the Interoperable Europe Act in Hungary. So I'm basically on the coordination level, and I also have some colleagues here from our 100% state-owned company, Idomsoft, that is responsible for development. Thank you very much.
Matteo Flottini from Italy.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm working in interoperability implementation in Italy for the Department for Digital Transformation and also for the National Data Catalog for implementing interoperability. Thank you.
Jean Martin from the JRC.
Yes, good morning. My name is Jaume Martin and I'm working in the JRC, and we are currently working in a methodology for the improvement of the guidelines of the interoperability assessments over time.
Kostas Spirit.
Hello, I'm Kostas. I'm currently working for the portal, the implementation of anything related to the assessments in the portal. So right now, the assessment form is in the portal, and would like to see how we can integrate further to either to an API or to any other platforms that we need to do in the future to serve even more services. So thank you.
Martin Sepper.
Hello, I'm working in Digital Information Agency on the main architect department, and this department is responsible for interoperability in Czech Republic.
Mayank Srivastava.
Hello, my name is Mayank. I'm working together with Kostas in the portal team responsible for the development and maintenance of features on the portal.
Milan Bilek. Then a representative from the Ministry of Digital Affairs. I don't have a name here.
You mean Michał Bukowski? Yes, hello everybody. My name is Michał Bukowski. I'm from the Polish Ministry of Digital Affairs. We are national competent authority and single point of contact for the Interoperable Europe Act. I work also for the permanent working group for the Interoperable Europe board, and I will be in future building an interoperability repository which will exchange data with the Interoperable Europe portal, also within the context of the interoperability assessments. Thank you.
Keith Sidia from Malta.
Morning. Can you hear me? Because I had. Hello. Yes.
We can hear you.
I'm Keith from the Malta Information Technology Agency, which is responsible for the for Malta's part. I mean, for the implementation of the IE Act, and I am a consultant.
Patrick Knoester from the Netherlands.
Working within the
Sorry, Keith, your audio fell out and I thought you were talking.
Okay. Hello, well, Patrick Kloes here from the Netherlands. I work for the Ministry of Interior, the Digital Government Department, and we are also the national competent authority and single point of contact. And like Mikael said, I'm also in the permanent working group, and we are now well exploring among stakeholders in the Netherlands how we are going to do the assessments, how I can support them in doing them. And right now, I'm building a frequently asked questions. I'm gathering questions within the member states, trying to answer them, hopefully help people along the way. Thank you.
Pavel Saba.
Hello, I am Pavel Šáda from Czech Republic, and I work for a digital information agency along with my colleagues Martin Sepper and Milan Bílek.
Petro Dudi.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm the project manager of the Interoperable Europe portal, and I'm here with my colleagues Kostas and Maya that already introduced themselves to see how this will go, because we are very interested in implementing this API and the assessments part on the portal.
And then finally, last but not least, Tomasz Nieradka. Sorry for mispronouncing everybody's name, by the way.
Yes, Tomasz Nieradka. Good morning. I'm from Poland. I'm working in the Department of State Information Architecture. I'm a specialist data architect. We model the data structure of state systems and registers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thanks for speaking up. I hope this already creates an environment where you're comfortable taking the mic, taking the floor, and voicing your voice. So let's first dive into the cases we have received on our GitHub page related to the use cases for the interoperability assessment. And this is going to be a short overview. So we had two issues that are quite related to each other, which is sharing assessments from your national portal over an API. So that this data model needs to be able to support that API, but also automatic submission as part of the unified lawmaking process. We see those two as very complementary, as such a submission and sharing over API can be part of that submission process. Currently, what are the consequences we foresee on the model? At this moment, no. At this moment, this model is envisaged with supporting APIs in mind. What will be consequences if today you bring it up? Yes, and over that API, we need to at least communicate this or that data point. And that will have an effect on the model. But here we do also want to have a point of attention that Michael Bukowski mentioned in our previous webinar, is that these elements will need unique identifiers. If we're going to be sharing our data, we need to make sure that unique identifiers are present so we don't start contaminating any data sources or data collections, that it's clear where what comes from and that nothing gets confused with each other. Then the second use case, it's really something we want to see to help us fill in these interoperability assessments, but also improve our policies around it. And that's a repository of best practice examples. So here, what's the ID? That is that some assessments have been filled in, some policies have been assessed, and they are deemed to be of sufficient value to other member states. What can they learn from this? And that this can be then shared and shown to them, so that you don't have to start from scratch, that you can really learn from each other. Because if we're going to fill in these assessments, let's try to use these assessments, is the thought process behind it. Here I already have a question for you. Please feel free to raise your hand or to post it in the chat. But what to you could indicate that a provided assessment is a best practice example? What kind of data would you expect there to be in there? But also, how do you see an assessment being endorsed and become a best practice example? I'm looking for your first thoughts. Yes, Michael?
Okay, so my first reflections on this are twofold. The first one, there could be a dedicated team of professionals who would review the submitted reports and pick up those who they deem very valuable for other countries or for other public authorities. And he also could be supported by a AI agent who would be taught how to pick up the best ones on specific criteria. Or the second thought is about using the so-called folksonomy. So people who will visit the Interoperable Europe portal could vote for those reports which they deem very useful for their inspiration and for their use. Thank you.
Then I want to build up on this. So Michael or somebody else, if a team has to review it, if the people review it and vote, what kind of information would be useful to know from the original member state to inform your vote, to inform the decision? Is there some information you think that's truly necessary to make that decision? I see in the chat some metadata on which parts of the assessments are to be highlighted, which is like, this is the standout bit, this is the part you can learn from. Thank you, Henry. Is there somebody else? I see 3 dots for typing, so I'll give a bit more time. Yes, Michael, please jump in.
Well, some parts, at least some parts of the report are the blob text descriptions. So, of course, you could attach some metadata, which would be helpful. However, maybe there could be included an fog text analysis of the text, how the text is understandable, what is the level of the plain, for example, plain text used. It is also for the consideration that the reports will be mainly, I suppose, in the member states' languages, national languages. So only the machine translation would allow others to reuse the examples provided with these reports. Thank you.
That is indeed, Michael, perfect that you bring that up. That's a very important thing that we all need to take care of. I was now assuming strings for these free text fields, but if we want to support this automated translation, it might be better to use language strings. That means it's a string that indicates the language, and that will facilitate automatic translation. So really, any other type of these use cases, they lead to additions to the model. We already have one now. Boom, I'm happy with that. I will continue to the next example, but remain in the chat. You can still point there. Just mention that it has to do with one or the other use case. Sander will also take a look. What is arriving there? Then our third example, it comes from Cecile, who mentions legislation in Europe is cascading. And you have European legislation that results in implementing acts, that results in national adoptions, and the effect on interoperability will be related for these matters. You don't want to be able to need to start from scratch with your assessment. There will be a connection to all these other levels. So what needs to be present in the model is a way to connect assessments related to a cascade of legislation. For this, we will look into ELI, European legislative identifiers, because that may already contain a structure for marking this cascading effect. Yes, indeed, Cecile, I see in the chat the country issuing the report is already taken into account, but I want to highlight that this is also the kind of input we want to see. You might assume, oh, this is trivial. You'll already have thought of it, it's in the model, but maybe it isn't. So even if you think something is trivial, post it in the chat, speak up, because over time, if you have 10, 20 trivial aspects, something can easily be forgotten. Yes, Michael.
Okay, I've got another idea in the context of the question: what assessments reports could be of the most value to the other countries? So the Interoperability Europe Act requires that during the assessments, the European interoperability framework would be taken into account for the assessments. So in Poland, we are working on the traceability of the requirements from the European interoperability framework into the assessment. So if the assessments in future, reports on assessments in future could pinpoint that some actions which were taken before formally accepting the requirements for the service are traced to the EIF recommendations, it could be for everyone reading these assessments, if there are many references to the particular recommendations, those assessments would be, I suppose, more valuable wherever the assessment reports which do not refer to the AEF recommendations could be deemed less valuable. Maybe it is that the authority performing the assessment didn't really take into account the recommendations which stemming from the EIF. If it's possible, I could show you the Excel file which provides for example for such, but of course I do not want to interfere with the presentation.
It's very interesting, Michael, not only for how you mentioned that is a clear marker that there is a bit more quality in there, but also if member states are, for example, struggling with one or another aspect of the EIF, if that metadata is there pointing to aspects of the EIF, you can really filter on that aspect to make sure that you learn from that aspect specifically. Michael, I don't think we have time for you to show it in this call, but it would already be nice if you can share the screenshots or a file with us over the email address of the Digit team, or post the screenshots or something informative as an issue on the GitHub account. That would be nice. And I also see that in the meantime, other people have raised their hands, so I'll give the floor to Cecile.
Yes, thanks. In fact, thinking of what we try to catch here is how impactful this report could be, and taking into consideration aspects that are prominent to it. So I was thinking also that having computed information like how often the act has been mentioned in other legislation. So this is information that is computed and will change over time, but it could also bring give some information about how impactful a report can be. And also it was about quality of the information that is in this report that I thought would make sense, but then still very far from so to assess data quality or the quality of the report, there should be authorities to do that, and I don't think that this is foreseen, so it's maybe too far-fetched. But the computation on the acts that are mentioned, that are used by the legislation that has been assessed, I think would really be a very good input.
Yes, indeed. If something is very popular and very much reused, that is a marker of importance, and importance should be taken into account, I would say. So thank you. So yeah, that's of course there is a discussion ongoing in the chat. I see, but I'll let that play out first. Then we have a fourth example use case that has been shared. Although it's called issue number 6 because we have paired a few. And that's
sorry, Emil. I thought it would be interesting. Sorry to
yeah.
jump,
no, that's good.
but you had put in the former slide something about ELI, and as a matter of fact, this use case was not discussed. We were still on the first use case.
Yeah, indeed.
Data. And I would have a question to people, to the member states, because we know that ELI is not completely fully used in all around Europe. Well, whereas it's quite extensive. Of course, its use is. So I don't know. I think that Poland uses it. I did not catch all the countries, but do you? So the question would be: is it okay to use this this approach, even though some member states don't have it? So that was one question, and then it's also the problem because this cascading effect is also true for procurement, where ELI does not exist. And voilà, so for me, this is the question, and I would like that we explore also, not now, but at a later stage, really the procurement case, because it's I think it's where we drill down to implementation and where we can see really a lot of value in this in having these reports.
So if anybody wants to touch on the usage of ELI, whether yes, that's a must for me, that's a maybe for me, or that is definitely not for me, put it in the chat. That will then result in either we reuse ELI, we reuse it in the ontology, or we get inspired by ELI. We look at the structures that are there, we tweak it to fit your and our use case and your data models that you're using locally. We can do both options. So please mention that in the chat as well. But Cecile's remark about procurement documents is perfect because it brings us to this use case. Because there are many contexts under which an interoperability assessment can be born. A binding requirement is indeed not only introduced by legislation, it's all policy, which includes procurement specifications. And therefore, it might be useful if we can classify the assessments according to their context in which they originated. Are we talking regional law? Are we talking procurement documents? What is the scope here? What are we talking about? And currently in the model, you could say it's present, but it's very implicit. We are pointing at FRBR expression, which is the document that originates this requirement. And then from there, you have to take your own route to find that context. We can be more implicit. We can include in the model those aspects so that you don't have to manually or programmatically look for it yourself, that it's part of the model. That's an option. So does anybody have some insights on this, or even how we do it that way, or an idea? Okay. You can really still, like Cecile did, even if I move on, you can raise your hand and come back on a topic that we've already moved on. I get it, you have to think a bit about things. But I see 2 participants have raised their hand. Let's take a look. It's Michael. So please take the floor.
Okay, so referring to textings, binding requirements may arise from legal texts. So from legal text, so we could use ELI for the European legal text, or in the case of the national legal text, maybe we could use first the ISO identifier for the country, and then the identifier for the legal act and the paragraphs of the legal act which are used in their national context. So it could be provide traceability to the source of the binding requirement. In the case of procurement documents, it could be similar if there are unique identifiers for the procurement documents in the national context, and other sources, it depends. Thank you.
That's great. I had a notification for 2 raised hands, but I no longer see a raised hands. Does somebody still want to speak up?
Well, but I want to let other people go first. I just want to open the idea, well, or put the idea out here. Like, wouldn't a relation be sufficient, or do we also need to be able to provide more context? Like, I am doing this assessment in scope of this project, and it is part of a procurement process, or is it simply a reference to a document sufficient? Or I mean, I'm mainly thinking about the information retrieval aspect we were discussing about earlier. If you want to go through this list of thousands of assessments, hopefully in a while, what would we need in terms of context description for efficient retrieval? And I see Cecile wants to.
Yeah, so I fully agree with you that the context is quite important. And now, can the context be retrieved automatically from the linked document? But I don't think so. So it's, or you need to have a specialized system to gather all information that is already known. If you go from an ELI, of course you can derive that it's a legal document. But I believe that also for just the understanding of the report, it would be interesting to have more contextual information, from which process this binding requirement comes from, and then so it's also true that if you are in a base act, you will not, so the interoperability barriers or the interoperability measures, maybe, for instance, at the semantic or technical level, will be in the base act. You won't have any, because it's good that it's not defined there, for instance. So maybe to have more understanding of the level of the legislation would be interesting. So to harmonize the view of the context would be interesting, to have an harmonized view for all at EU so in the European context, I mean, yeah. But I fully support this, but we need to investigate more what context means. That's
Okay. We've already been interactive, and that's what I like. This is a brief reminder of the data model, but it's not important that much. But now we're going to go even more interactive. That's the goal. So I will now start the WebEx whiteboard, which is will pop up soon, I hope, in the window where you are following this meeting. In this window, we will do some exercises. I don't know whether you can still see my screen and while I started the Blackboard, but it will consist of posting post-its. We're going to start with the first exercise, and that's to continue on these example use cases that have already been shared. Can you use post-its? So on the left-hand side, you have a toolbar, and the second from below looks like a post-it. You can, if you press that, you can post post-its on this whiteboard. And there you can really describe your scenario. Why are you actually in this meeting, for example? What is your interest in this data model? How will this affect your life? That's also quite relevant to establish a common use case for all of us. So please provide more info as much info as you want. I don't think there is any tracking on who provided what post-it, so don't be shy. You can post whatever you want. So that's the first exercise we'll do now. So please do take on the whiteboard a post-it and start posting away.
Could you once again repeat the task right now? So we are posting the yellow post-it notes, and with what content?
Yeah, so it can range from really what is your role related to this data model? Why are you here? That gives us already some knowledge on how you will need to interact with it. From that, we can derive a use case. Or if you already have some clear use cases in mind, either from what we talked about now that inspired you or which you had thought upon, really write a use case in a post-it that is also welcome. I see a few post-its being written, but I'm definitely sure that all of you have an interest in this model, and that's why you're here today. So please do provide as much info as you can. And that's why we do this exercise. It's anonymous because I cannot see whose post-its come from who. Don't be shy. Type as much as you want. Really, more information can be filtered out, but less information I cannot create new information. That's the philosophy behind this. So really dump away. While everybody else is writing, so that we're not in an awkward silence, for the people who are a bit more confident or willing to speak about the post that they've already written, you don't have to, but feel free to raise your hand, give us a short explanation on your post-it. If you're not comfortable writing as well, you can just raise your hand, speak up, and we'll note down your use case as well. So really engage, engage, engage. I'll ask my co-host Sander. I see that you're looking into the post-its. Do you already have a small highlight of what you see occurring on the post-its for us? Help inspire all participants, I would say.
Well, definitely the
So as I don't know, Sander was cut. I don't know. If you want, I can explain my purple little post-it. So
yes, please.
Of course, it's looking forward, but I think it would be really interesting to be able to connect interoperability assessment with implementation, and so there are already solutions that are available for citizens to give feedback on public service, you know, in the single digital gateway, for instance. And it would be really great that we can have a connection between the interoperability assessment that has set or mandated the setting up of a public service or an update of a public service, and then the feedback received by citizens, so that this can feed the evaluation cycle for the next time that the policy will be revised, you see. So, of course, it's far-fetched, but maybe, you know, if you don't think ahead, then you won't be able to build it. So, voilà.
Sander, just checking, were you able to connect stably again? Then you can try
stably
to give
is a very you never know. But it seems to be working again. I should avoid moving my laptop on this flaky docking station. No, I think everything around data governance in the flow is a bit what I see coming as an overall theme. Like the data model should allow us for harvesting from one portal to the other, to exchange between portals. We need to have stable identifiers so that all of those things can connect and refer to each other. And then once the data is there, we should be able to do analytics on top of it. All of this, it seems to me a bit the common theme of having a fit for purpose model and then proper data governance on the implementation. Then on the link, the link between the assessments and the outside world, I would say. I mean, the things that are not part of the assessment is also something I see recurring a bit overall on the post-its, whether it's with legislation that it is that the assessment is evaluating, or whether it is the link to the solutions, reusable solutions that help realize an effective system. Those two things I see popping up as well. But I don't know if somebody else wants to elaborate a bit on what they put here. That could also help, of course.
Yes, I would like to elaborate on my post-it, just to give you the context. The post-it says, I'd like to see the possibility to input unique identifiers to all elements of assessments, e.g. unique IDs for public information systems and registers. My idea is to have the easy way to connect different interoperability assessments which referred to the same components. For example, when several assessments refer to the requirements for the public information system with the unique ID, they could be easily connected to and relate to the system, so it could provide a valuable insight for the further development of this system. And it also goes further and connects to the previous proposal for the connecting the assessments with the outcomes, so electronic digital services. So from my point of view, digital services, and from our architecture point of view used in Poland, digital services provide the ability to fulfill rights or obligations and are supported by the IT systems and public registers. Therefore, we could see the connections in future between systems and services, and then the assessments and the outcomes, and also, last but not least, the feedback from the service users on service, which will be linked there then to the assessment. Thank you.
Okay. Is there somebody else who wants to also add some context around their post-it or bring a new topic as well? I see Cecilia has raised her hand.
Yes, so I thought also that, and honestly now I forgot a bit what is in the IOP assessment report, but I think that we should be able to monitor how interoperable Europe solutions are mandated in legislative acts. So I think in fact, it's a use case. We did not speak about it, but it's a very straightforward that we should have on board how to monitor this uptake of interoperable Europe solutions in legislation.
That's very interesting indeed. The interoperability assessments, they do mention highlight the relevant solutions. It does not mandate it doesn't really highlight which ones are mandated. So, okay, it's marked as relevant, but is it relevant because, okay, it fits, or is it relevant because it was explicitly mentioned? This distinction might indeed provide some benefit to see which solutions get adopted most. I don't see a lot of movement anymore on the post-its. Do keep moving there. But if nobody wants to elaborate further on a post-it or add more post-its, so Sander, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to give the word quickly to Isa.
Thank you. I joined under the same account, so that's why I don't have my own identity. I was thinking about that. I think it was really nice to see the use cases that you created around what the data model could then be, where it could be helpful when we think about the use that goes beyond just putting a report out there. And I was thinking already, triggered by other things, about this use case of really implementers and how far can we make this data that is in the reports really accessible and reusable for implementers. And one is really for implementers that just go to maybe even the Interoperable Europe portal or a linked other, I don't know, a public open source for the public sector portal anywhere, and that the data that is in the reports can somehow help them detect more easily the solutions that are relevant for them. So I don't know if we already say this in this assessment, it's about this sector, that things are already narrowed down for solutions that were relevant for a specific sector identified, or just really the procurement case but that would, in my view, be if you do a procurement for a system in a local authority where you need to implement not one act that was assessed in one assessment, but potentially even you could have 50 assessment reports that are relevant I think it's like if you really in a long-term perspective, you are implementing open data directive and digital identity, and all of them are relevant for this digital system that you need to implement at local level. And if there is not, because if in all of this assessment we have a list of potentially reusable open solutions, can this be somehow aggregated and then you get one list and you don't get a list, and in report 1 there was done, but I don't know, this was mentioned 10 times, so it's most relevant. But I know maybe it's a bit too far-fetched, but if we think about those kind of use cases, I think this might have then been the back end implications on how we design the data model and how the different data fields are linked. But I cannot say now how, but I just have the feeling it could have an implication. Thank you. Sorry, it was long.
That's a very good one, indeed. We're making the data model now, so how feasible is it to make the description you gave? I don't know, that's not my focus, but what we can definitely do is make sure that the data is there, that if they want to start that process, that the data is there in the model, and that such a thing can be done. So that's perfect. I see some extra explanatory information shared by Michael related to how it's phrased in the Act, so how you would expect it to be present in an assessment, and another clear mandate for us to look in, to make sure that we're using unique identifiers for the solutions. Do know, Michael, Interoperable Europe Solutions. That's a label given by the Interoperable Europe Board, and one of the requirements for it is that it's supposed to be hosted, that solution, on the Interoperable Europe portal. And since most things in the Interoperable Europe portal are arranged by ADMS, for the Interoperable Europe solutions, it's guaranteed that they have an identifier via the portal. Of course, if we want identifiers for other solutions, we have to look into how can we make sure that everybody can do it.
I would support it that it's a great news. However, during the process of preparation of the interoperability assessment, it should be it is not it is well, it refers also to the model and to the form. So the model should allow for containing data with the unique identifiers of the Interoperable Europe solutions. This is on the data model. And on the other hand, the form which allows for the preparation of the interoperability assessment should allow for the easy pickup of the Interoperable Europe solutions, and then put the unique identifier of the solution into the data produced by the form according to the data model.
Yes, that's good stuff. Is there anybody else who wants to highlight a use case? Can even be a use case from somebody else where you have questions about. If not, I'll already introduce the next exercise, and you can still come back to the use cases. Because the next exercise is, it drives a bit deeper. So we have our use cases, or we have some use cases. It's not exhaustive. But now think about what you've heard today about use cases, and really make post-its about what information do I expect to be present for this use case. So we've heard the national authority that's providing it, the context related to what kind of legislations. These are all examples of such information. So you might be thinking, oh, but I don't write this down because this is not granular enough. It wouldn't fit the model. That's fine. We're looking at a high level, what information is needed, and drilling down is the second stage. So really, I'm now gonna write some post-its that relate to what we've mentioned now, but also do jump in post-its. What information do I need for my use case? So that we can do below the currently existing post-its.
and we are aware that we're going slightly over time, but this is quite an important step to at least capture for these use cases also the data elements that that you think would be needed to be expressed in the model to make sure that we can fulfill the use cases. Also, while you're doing this, I would definitely invite you again to also transcribe these use cases if you can in the GitHub page directly. The ones that are not captured, well, that are not written down or registered in a week, we'll try to write out ourselves as good as possible. But of course, it's a lot better if you do it for yourself. This way, you're also kept in the loop if a discussion starts on the issue in GitHub. You get and we can then that way we can get it more into an engaging discussion there as well.
And indeed, for those people who sadly already have to leave because I was a bit passionate that we are going a bit of overtime, do treat the GitHub issue page as a continuation of this meeting. So if you have the feeling I didn't clarify it sufficiently or didn't have the opportunity to inform them on this next exercise, for example, do post it on the GitHub issue page. If you're really doing a use case, bracketed use case. If you really want to go into information, post that as a response on other issues. Feel really do encourage to look at each other's posts as well, because looking from different sides on the same use case will bring more insights than one person really writing their, let's say, manifesto. I think we have to co-write what is needed and how we view things. For those people who can still be in the meeting for another 10-ish minutes, please keep on posting post-its. So while you're posting post-its, I want to all kindly remind you we're doing a maintenance cycle, an update cycle, and our next planned meeting is on the 5th of June. So we will send out the invite shortly, but already look into blocking your invite. We will be considering a 2-hour meeting for that one, so we don't have to go overtime like this time. So please book 2 hours between 10 and 12 on the 5th of June, Brussels time. I see everybody is leaving, so I will store the whiteboard. For those troopers still present, I want to thank you all. I see we're not with a lot of people anymore, so I don't want to prolong suffering. Thank you very much for attending today. Nice lunch, and do keep using the GitHub page. We have seen a few champions already starting to use it intensively, but we encourage you all to become your own champion.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Emil. Thank each other.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Don't forget